and welcome to the Glacially Musical Pouredcast. It is beer, metal, and swearing. Of course, I am Nick Cameron, the founder of Glacially Musical, and I am joined by my good friend, a man who always knows where to go, his one foot in front of the other, Keefy Cumberland. How we doing today, buddy?
Alrighty, I'm good. How are you doing today?
I am tired as hell. This past weekend, we had our moving sale, and the week before that, we spent 3 to 4 hours nightly working on it, and we have spent months working on it ahead of time. I have decided we're going to have more sales because we didn't sell everything, obviously. So it's already set up. We don't live there. Might as well just have a couple more. But thank you, everyone, for joining in for Nick's House Terrible Awfulness. If you are here for Def Leppard, I apologize. We will get there. Def Leppard, today is the last episode of the Def Leppard series. We're going to get to their super mega ultra smash phenomenon, the zenith, the climax of their commercial viability. Of course, that is Def Leppard's 1987 magnum opus-ish, Hysteria. Before we get to that, if you are new, thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe if you dig the next 38 to 45 seconds of this podcast. If you like those next seconds, you will love it all. But here's how we do this. We greet, we have a beer check, we have a vinyl check, we have a news. So we say hello, which we've done. We check out our beers because we love them and they're delicious. And then we break out a record that we have purchased in the last recents because we love music on vinyl. Note behind me. Then the meat of the day. So today I am kicking it with a Big Deal Brewing. Oh, and a shirt check in there somewhere. Big Deal Brewing, produced by Labbat. It is the Spitting Chicklets beer. I did not know that when I purchased it. I knew it was $6 for a 6-pack of pints, and that is a good deal, especially for Canadian beer.
Is Spitting Chicklets a hockey fight reference?
Spitting Chicklets is what you do after you've been
out.
hit in, yes, after your teeth have been knocked out, whether it be it by high stick, whether it be by goalpost or a punch in the mouth.
There's a hockey podcast that's the Spitting Chicklets podcast.
Yes, it's them.
Oh, it's their beer.
It's their beer. I did not know that.
Oh shit, that's great.
So it's
we can tag them.
There's their logo.
Why don't we have a beer? What would our beer taste like?
Our beer would taste like hell on earth. Because we would fudge it up.
You think?
Yeah.
I'm tired.
You know how to brew beer? I don't.
That's
why I buy it.
I have no idea how to brew a beer. Brew something else. I can't brew a beer. And I guess it's my beer check. I'm once again drinking a Red Hook Big Ballard Imperial IPA because I have one. I'm back drinking a beer. I got a glass and a finger fudge. Almost hair pop. I don't know. Nothing. Finger fudge down the middle.
Yeah, that is huge.
It is huge, and it's a very high ABV.
This is a 6% golden ale. One of my friends on Twitter, Jay the Lugan, says it tastes like it's got a dead animal in it. I disagree. It tastes like a dirty lager, which is what basically a golden ale is. So anyway, cheers. He says it's terrible, but I kind of dig it. It's got that Sapporo-y kind of hops flavor. That stiff, non-aromatic hops, if you know what I mean. As for my vinyl check, because I can not stop myself and because it came down in value over the last couple of weeks, I have picked up the 2020 repress of the Red Hot Chili Peppers 1996 masterpiece, One Hot Minute. Anyone who says One Hot Minute is not the best record they've ever done, punch them.
It's not the best. No, it's not the best record they've ever done. It's a very good follow-up to the best record they've ever done.
I think this is absolute. Well, you know what? I take it back. It's got some. We can discuss that another time. It is quite a good record, and
I have a feeling we're going to discuss it very soon.
Quite soon. Yeah, we can. You want to announce or not?
Nah, whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
We'll go ahead and announce it. Our next series will also be another one run by me, mostly picked by me. And we're finally going to do the Red Hot Chili Peppers. We are going to go the 80s up to this one. 6 records? So it's going to be a bit of a long series.
I'm preemptively drinking a lot for this series.
I am preemptively.
Oh, wait, I'm supposed to. I'm trying to have a dry June. Oh, shit. Oh, well, we'll see what happens.
And then we'll have a chaser next week. Don't know what it is yet, but we'll get there. Oh, this is the 2020 repress, 180 gram. It should be on 2 records. It is only on 1. Still sounds quite good. No splatter, no cool color, anything like that.
How much was it?
I got it for 35 shipped.
Why was it so high before that you didn't buy it? Was it 50?
Oh, it was in the hundreds. Yeah, for some reason it was like $100.
Maybe it was scarce.
Yeah, apparently somebody found a box of them because the guy I bought it from on Discogs had like 5.
Oh,
yeah, so it's out there now.
All right. Well, I have a vinyl, one today, a local Bay Area death metal and grindcore band. This is Deathgrave. It's Only Midnight, out on Tank Crimes Records. This is not too long ago, semi-recent, last year or two. Beautifully packaged. Shout out to Tank Crimes for all they do. It came with a download card, kind of a custom printed download card with their logo on it and everything.
I used to really care about those, and now I just don't.
Yeah, I like them. Fun insert with a band photo and the lyrics. And it's this like alarm clock font because it's like about midnight is the, time is the theme. Weirdly looks like a Slayer Gone Bad album cover, if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of a glare here. Yeah, man, good. This is a good record. And then check this fun, funky vinyl out. Look at this beautiful blue that matches the album cover artwork.
I like that. That is a
Cloudy.
wonderful. When they say splatter, I don't think splatter is. I think it's a misnomer. It's not a splatter. It's like a centrifugal force thing. That's a splatter. That looks like the blue was just paint inside the vinyl.
When I think of splatter, I think of like Jackson Pollock, right?
Yeah.
So even though he was kind of terrible, but like great painter. But
moving on.
I used to work for his nephew, by the way.
Jimmy Pollock?
No.
Sammy Pollock.
No relation. He was a Krasner, not a Pollock.
No, I'm bored with that. Shirt check today. I'm rocking my newest Godzilla and newest and only at present Godzilla t-shirt because I'm trying to not have multiple t-shirts of a brand. It's got Godzilla in katakana, and my wife knows I want more shirts because of this. So catching up on t-shirts.
I get it. You've probably seen this guy before. This is my fluorescent orange Suicidal Tendencies shirt. I love Suicidal Tendencies.
I'm glad I finally saw them a few years ago. Actually, it's been a number of years ago now.
They
did not play institutionalized.
They have a brand new drummer. That's unusual that they didn't play it because they almost always play it.
They were the opener.
That's why.
Yeah.
What show was that? That they were the opener?
No, they were the middle. It was Exodus, Suicidal, Slayer.
Wow. Oh, wow. Of course. Yeah.
It was the first, I believe that was the first big tour they did after Hayneman had died. So it was like 2013, 2014.
So that's a while ago. It's a while ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I just realized this morning I'm listening to one of the local radio shows, and they're talking about the generations and when they start, and they're like Gen Z goes all the way up to 2012, and I'm like, man, 2012, bro, man, wow, what? And then I realized, oh my god, that was 11 years ago. So yeah, I'm quickly heading off to the grave. Very metal. News of the day. I got one little quick news story. Gene Simmons, in a great way of selling you his fame and theoretically his expertise, for several $1,000s, you can meet him at Abbey Road Studios and record a song, presumably with another 40 or 50 dudes who have the same several thousands of dollars. You do not get to pick the song. You do not get to record your own song. You are recording the song, presumably, with all these other dudes. So good luck to the people who hate themselves enough to buy that. Oh, and there is also a Gene Simmons Lobu bass, which is made to resemble the Lobu bass he had in the 70s that he played for one song and then signed. So it is now being sold as stage played. It's just as fake as the Wayne Gretzky retirement game worn jerseys, all 40 of them. He wore one every shift.
Right. Seems unlikely. Especially how
he did that.
He did? Oh god.
That's a real thing.
I highly
Probably
rec-
to sell them to cards so they could put it in those where they chop up the jerseys.
I highly recommend Epic Rap Battles of History, Tony Hawk versus Wayne Gretzky with MC Napkins as Wayne Gretzky. It's incredible. Um, Here's some Kiss news. Today's Urban Dictionary word of the day is Kiss Army. Now, I don't know what Kiss fan fanatic maniac wrote this, but I'm going to read this definition for you. What is the word? Here is your word of the day, Kiss Army. The army of fans who follow the band Kiss. They lie dormant now, but as nations grow weak and cities turn to slums and evil stands strong, the Kiss Army will rise up and become the new world order. Kiss will then rule the world. That, or it's just a Kiss fan club for a bunch of kids born in the 70s.
That is clearly a dude who is bought into the Kiss retcon of the origin story. Because if you go back to Kiss from 1974 to 1978, they're just a rock band in a wild getup doing some dance moves. That's all it is. But then they retconned this whole thing, and now it's characters. Now they're doing character songs, like those Gene Simmons evil songs he wrote, like Two Timer and All the Way, or what about Charisma? Man, so evil, so evil. That's just this lie that Kiss fans have bought into, and that's what that is.
I have no words for that definition, but I just thought it was curious that it would pop up today when we're recording in my inbox. Here's not a news story, but I'm going to ask you really quick in either or, and this is for you and the fans, and people can comment. What is a worse story? What is the worst story in value to you? David Ellefson complaining in an interview that Dave Mustaine talks too much shit still about Megadeth, about Metallica. So Dave Mustaine getting complained about by David Ellefson that Mustaine talks too much about Metallica, or Jason Newsted getting asked to slag Lars and going on a tirade defending Lars, like breaking his neck to defend Lars. Which is the worst of those two unlikely stories?
I'm gonna give those a tie, and say the worst story is that unfortunately, lost Lonely Hearts Club member David Draiman has had to cancel his Tinder account.
Oh, he joined Tinder and canceled Tinder like in 3 days.
Yes.
I'm sure there's some matchmaker service or dating service for ultra rich, famous rock star people. I heard the story about how Jessica Miller met Lars, and they were just friends. Like, she was for a long time with Darren from System of a Down, and they're friends. And then they were split, and Lars was split from his wife or longtime partner. And then they just kind of organically started going out, but like she was not attracted to him or into him at all, but he was nice, and that's how he got in her good graces as a famous model. She certainly wasn't hurting for money. Granted, she didn't have Lars money, but you know. I don't know. David
money,
Draiman is
problems.
getting divorced and sold off his Miami house, or is selling his house. Nobody is ever divorced because they are happy, you know what I'm saying? Like, most people getting divorced, sometimes they're happy about it, but they're usually not.
I hope for everybody who gets a divorce, they get what I got, which is a few months of abject, horrific depression, followed by a great sense of relief. Because now the problems you always pretended weren't there are dead. That's what I got out of it.
My life turned heavy.
It did turn heavy.
Why?
So while we're getting heavy, let's move on to a lighter topic. Def Leppard. So, Def Leppard creates Pyromania, releases Pyromania, and that was where we called it a day. They go out and they hit as we discussed, Pyromania drops in January of 1983. So 81 or 80, 81, 83, album tour, 3 albums, 3 tours in 3 years. Great system. It takes 4 years to get to the next record, and here's why. So they go on the Pyromania tour, which is their first headlining tour. Average set list, so we'll call it the set list. Rock Rock Till You Drop, awesome. Rock Brigade, awesome. High and Dry, yeah. Another Hit and Run. Billy's Got a Gun, Foolin', followed by Photograph, followed by Rock of Ages, followed by Bringing on the Heartbreak. Bro, how could I even get myself back up off the floor to get to the next tracks? I'm done. You have just you've blown every load. So what do you do? Then you go switch 625. Okay. Then you do a guitar solo. Then you do Let It Go. Then you do, because the first one was so great, another guitar solo. Wasted, Stage Fright, and then you cover CCR with Travelin' Band. Because if there's any CCR track you're going to cover, that's the moneymaker. What do you think about this set list, man? They tracked this like a record.
Like, oh my
yeah,
God.
They tracked it like a record.
Like, the soft underbelly is all at the end, and it's all bad. It's not good. I don't want to hear Def Leppard cover anything ever.
All this is a snake. This is an armor-clad snake that just rolls over and gives you all of it. Here you go.
That middle of the set, though, I'd love to hear those 4 in a row anytime.
Oh yeah,
and those first 3 are also very good.
Oh yeah.
I don't need
amazing
the instrumental.
stuff.
I don't need. Maybe they were off stage taking a pee during the instrumental and taking a whiz. Here's a fun fact. I interviewed this week Bruce Lamont of Yakuza. I don't know if you're familiar.
I'm not.
The avant-garde metal saxophonist and his band. Very heavy, sludgy, doomy.
I'm sorry, what was his name?
Bruce Lamont, and the band is called
I'm thinking
Yakuza.
I'm thinking of a different avant-garde metal saxophone player.
Okay.
Who's French and lives in New York now, but I forget.
Here's how awesome this conversation was. Not only was his first show ever Def Leppard on the Pyromania tour, and I referenced this podcast, we were talking about like how many baritone, avant-garde, jazz, metal saxophonists there are. And he said, oh, every interviewer wants to call me like the metal Kenny G. And I was like the metal Mel Collins. And he doubled over with laughter at the idea that he could be the metal Mel Collins of Pink Floyd and King Crimson fame. And we talked about some progressive rock, and we talked about some Floyd. It was a fantastic chat. You can look out for that. Yakuza has a new album coming out soon on Spart Records. But I thought you would like to be amused that this Venn diagram crossover. And also, Bruce, by the way, if you didn't know, is the lead singer of the cover band Led Zeppelin 2 with the number 2. And that's his day job, because it started out as a goof side project for fun, and it actually is so lucrative. That's his number 1 job. That's
how it is for El Monstero, the big St. Louis cover Pink Floyd tribute act. They do 3 weeks of shows in December. They do 1 show. They do 3 weeks of theater shows. They do 1 big show, and that pays all their bills. And then they can just be, and then they can just be the musicians in their regular bands if they want to be.
Ain't that cool?
That is crazy.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, so Def Leppard goes on tour, very successful. By the way, as we referenced in last week's episode, High and Dry is then reissued with the remastered, remixed Pyromania style versions of their hits. That's the record. That's the record Nick had.
Correct.
And then what happens?
Well,
because it's been going too good, something bad's got to happen.
Now we've all heard about the Def Leppard curse. So here's where it starts. They go on holiday after they've worked hard, and so Rick does what every young rock star with $1 million.
Rick Allen, because there's 2 Ricks in Def Leppard.
Yes,
not Rick Savage.
Allen, not Rick Savage. Rick Allen, the drummer, does what every young rock star does with £1 million in the bank. He buys a Corvette. And what happens to young boys who have Corvettes? Inevitably, they have accidents. I used to be really angry about insurance rates for young men like myself when I was first driving, but now I see, no, it totally makes sense. There have been a number of Cardinals players who in their Corvettes and Ferraris have actually died while on the team. So I'm not making light of this. This is a very sadly common tragedy. So Rick Allen is involved in a very serious car accident. His girlfriend survives largely unharmed. However, Rick loses his arm. As a drummer, he loses his left arm, I believe. Not that it matters, because you need both arms to play the drums, supposedly. So, this happens on New Year's Eve, 1984. So, as we discussed before, 3 years, 3 albums, 3 tours. And the third tour was very long. So now, as I mentioned earlier, we are 4 years between albums. So the band waits on Rick Allen to see what's going to happen. Sorry that I'm trying to remember to add his last name. So they wait to find out what's going to happen. They reattach the arm. It does not take. It is amputated and he loses it. Supposedly, according to the movie, Rick Allen comes up with a system based on all of the synths they've been using lately, a way to make it so where he could at least play a facsimile of playing the drums, even if he is not the drummer he once was. During this time, while he is recovering, the band is riding with Mutt. Steve Clark is dealing with his demons. Steve Clark goes very, very, very deep into his alcoholism at this point. Keeping in mind, we are only 4 years away from Steve Clark dying when Hysteria comes out. Hysteria is so the only real tour this band has is the one they just finished, and after that was the zenith of their power as a band. And every album something changes. So they go from the John Bonham-esque, Keith Moon-esque drums of Pyromania into full-on 80s synthesized drums. The drums are different. On the album, the drums are fine. As someone who has seen Def Leppard in concert thrice, it's different live. The drums are, we'll say, a little bland, a little repetitive, because there's a lot of sampling of fills.
Well, he would tell you that like one of the criticisms about him is that he was too busy a drummer before for the music they made. He was constantly told to downplay, underplay, and he overplayed apparently out of zeal. And by nature, now I don't remember, people, drum nerds, don't at me, if it's Simmons or Roland, whichever drum company was the big one in the 80s that he used.
Roland, I believe.
Mostly known for synths, but they also had drum machines and drum pads and electronic drum kits. But mostly known for bass amps and synthesizers, which I had a Roland bass amp for very long. My first bass amp was a Peavey, and my second bass amp was a Roland tube bass amp with fantastic sound.
Oh, I remember those.
And, this guy was like 25 years old and his career was almost over. And the band could have just coldly been like, sorry, mate, we got to get a new drummer. But they waited for him, which I think is very, they waited for him to work it out. And so, gave him every opportunity. They partially derailed the comet that was their career to wait for him, which I don't think it would happen today. The Ghost Inside is a comparable thing, right? Where they were in a big van crash and their drummer lost a leg. And did not know, even with a titanium new leg, if he could drum ever again, because it's painful, right? Like, it's like not fun for him, but like he figured out a new way of playing.
Absolutely spectacular point. But for him, it's even easier because there actually was somebody to look up to that has done this, that has lost a limb and continued.
For the record, I don't think that guy uses electric drums at all. I think he uses a regular drum kit, just kind of reconfigured.
Right.
And then also recently, Eloy Casagrande of Sepultura, about a year ago, fell off the back of a stage in Texas and broke both his legs and got so much damage. Then he got a kidney infection during his recovery where his leg kind of withered. And he had to do like a whole, not only recover from 2 broken legs, but strength training and kind of relearn how to play drums completely So there have been instances since Rick Allen where this tragedy has befallen
Right.
the drummer and they've had to
My
figure it out.
point, my point was simply that somebody had figured it out before him. Whether or not you use the same key to open the lock, that when Rick Allen does it, basically a drummer without an arm is a horse with a broken leg. You just give him a scritch behind the ears and say, "Look that way." But as you rightly pointed out, Def Leppard, my family were farmers, and this actually happened in my family, but not the drummer, the horses. But they humanely, kindly, lovingly wait for him. I mean, they wait 2 years for him to get through the injury. Wait 2 years for him to get through dealing with everything. During this time, they are also recording, presumably with a drum machine. They are writing, they are recording Hysteria, but they were waiting to find out what was going to happen. We should mention now is a good time. They did a concert after the first concert they did was a club show, warm-up show, I believe, and they had a second drummer that was going to be on tour with them. Rick was going to handle all of the studio stuff, and then you have a helper fish for the live shows. Well, the drummer ended up missing the first half of the show. He was late. So Rick is playing the drums by himself for the first half of the show. And the way Joe Elliott put it was the new guy shows up, he starts playing. It was no different. And we all thought, well, there's no point in that. And you know what? Kudos to them for holding on to their boy.
Also sounds like drummers. Every drummer ever. Like, dude, really, you would miss the show. You had one job, be on time.
Look, it's not like it was a big break for him playing with Def. Oh,
Yeah,
no, that
it was a big break for him.
Big break. Because you know what? If he had gotten there on time, they wouldn't know that it wouldn't have been different without him. And then he would have gotten paid. However, he did not. So the world goes like it's supposed to. So yes.
Let's talk for a second about his, aside from the Rick Allen of it all. Let's talk about this record really quick before we do the track by track and skedaddle.
There were a few things I wanted to mention. So if you don't, I'm going to jump on those before track by track.
You jump on them then. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm just trying to move us along.
No, I appreciate that. The big thing is this record cost so much money in recording fees. Because remember, they were recording this the entire time. They weren't, whether or not they were sober and not, piss drunk face first on the floor in the studio, spending 50 pounds an hour being there, same diff. Apparently, their takeaway bill for the recording sessions came up to $40,000.
Is that takeout, food takeout?
Yes. So in England, they call it takeaway.
You're not English. You are not British, Nicholas.
I'm quoting them. I'm quoting them from an interview.
I said mate earlier. I'm sorry.
The curry takeout joint round the corner. Is that better? The takeout place. They spent $40,000 there over the course of 2 years because that's all they ate while they were there. They had to sell like 4 million copies of this record to break even. Now, let's think about that for 1 second. That's about what Pyromania did. Is Pyromania, when you're recording this, when you're in the moment, is Pyromania, every band has a peak. Metallica's peak was the Black Album. It has never gotten anywhere near what they did again. Oh, should mention, they sold 45,000 vinyls in their first week. We talked about that recently. That was the number. I said 30. It was 45. So kudos to them. Every time a band has one of these breakout records, are you going up the mountain? Or are you sliding down? So the record label could have easily pulled the plug on this and gone, no, finish it. You have this much time, but they didn't. So Mutt Lange is in there. Mutt Lange is a great songwriter, a great arranger. Mutt Lange, excuse me, still forcing them this, fighting them on this. And what do we get? Anything you want to say about the record?
I just think like the things that you liked about Pyromania, they said, hey, that was really cool. Let's do it 100 times more intensely. And they really took that to heart.
By you don't mean me.
I don't mean you. I mean the band.
Yeah. Well,
And
what everybody liked, what the world liked. Oh, we're gonna do it again. Even the album covers are similar.
they're very simple. It's literally like
Same colors.
low energy. There's a Def Leppard font and color scheme
Yeah.
now that lasts through a bunch more albums for them. They love that royal blue. They love the Union Jack. Doesn't really matter what the subject matter is. Album cover doesn't have to have any metaphorical or related link meaning to the music or of any kind. It's just like, let's do a thing.
We'll say though, today while I was listening to this record again, my kid looks up and goes, "This record sounds exactly the way the cover looks."
Yes, she's wise beyond her years. She'll be doing this podcast in 5 more years and we'll be retired. She has good ears. So yeah, this album, the things you like about Mutt Lange, the things you like about Foolin', the things you like about Rock of Ages, Photograph, dial that up to 100. I'm not exaggerating.
It was the
100
80s.
backup 10 guitars,
Oh,
10 rhythm guitars, 2 basses, Joe
'Cause you need
Elliott in a
3.
vocal chamber, everybody singing backup vocals, including Rick Allen and Rick
And
Savage.
all of them doubled and tripled too. I mean,
Triple,
if
like,
you thought Rock of Ages had a big chorus, oh no,
yeah.
that was a Tennessee sized chorus.
It's very clear that Mutt Lange loves Queen, right? Like, that's the thing. And funny enough, by the way, I didn't mention this before, Bruce Lamont being a guy who's in a very lucrative Led Zeppelin cover band, tribute band, he dresses like Robert. They dress like Song Remains the Same Led Zeppelin during the show. He was like the reason I loved Joe Elliott at that first show I ever saw was he sounded exactly like Robert. He was like, this is the most Robert Plant of Robert Plants to ever Robert Plant. And I said that 2 weeks ago. This guy loves Robert Plant. Okay. So like Pyromania is overdriven as a production. The songs are pretty good. Listening back to it now this week, I didn't even really have to listen to it this much. As I told Nick offline, this album lived in my Denon cassette tape 10-pack. And the main 4 albums I switched out, and occasionally something else went in there. A Yes mixtape, something else. But almost always, it was Metallica and Justice for All, Pink Floyd The Wall, George Michael Faith, and Hysteria. And the tape that came in the next year and blew that out was Mother's Milk.
Like
a year and a half later.
I had a real hard time with this record contemporarily because, quite frankly, my stepsister was into this, and this was a band I had been into since before I had known her. I didn't meet her till I was 12. And that kind of blew that this girl that I kind of couldn't stand is like same thing happened a couple years later when she got into Metallica.
That's how I am with the Grateful Dead. But anyway, I don't
Well,
care.
the Grateful Dead just sucks. I said it. They suck.
They suck.
So let's go ahead.
Yeah,
anything
just
else?
like it's an experience hearing this record with some fresh ears. I don't go back and listen to this record a lot. I listened to this record nonstop for years. I listened to Adrenalize for like 6 months because of this record. I really tried to love that record. I can't. But
it's terrible.
This record, it's interesting because like on the surface, it is an amazing record. It gets all the flowers, it has all the sales. It is the pop metal version of Thriller for Def Leppard.
Correct.
Listening back to it today with today's ears and everything I know, it's not as good today as it was then. Spoiler alert. But
the best way I can describe this record is it is an English band trying so hard to make an American epic.
It's possible. I like that too.
There's Ronald Reagan on here.
Hi, how do you want to do this track listing?
You know what? Let's just this album, I'm gonna remember most of it. There's a couple things here and there I don't have a great recollection of. Ironically, the first track is one of them.
Oh, okay. Well,
but I remember I didn't even have to listen to it for most of it because these songs were so omnipresent in my world, in everyone's world at the time. I don't think we mentioned it. This album sold upwards of 30 million copies. This record is a phenomenon record. It is up there with Dark Side of the Moon. It is up there with the Black Album, Thriller,
Zeppelin 4.
I mean, there's not many of
these
records.
The first 2 Whitney Houston records, Madonna.
Right. And in terms of a band doing a record like this, there's like 20. Period.
Yeah, ever.
So this album is rightly considered in the conversation with Led Zeppelin 4, Dark Side of the Moon,
Well,
Rumors,
in sales,
and
not
Sale.
in greatness.
Well, obviously, nothing is as good as Dark Side. Anyway, so track by track, let's start with Women. I don't remember that one.
Women isn't actually it's a little strange of an opener, but it's a very solid song. It's about how they love women. Like
Deep lyrics.
all their songs, lyrics are terrible across the whole album. This song is no exception. Pretty bad. Um, Compares, the creation of women to the alpha and the omega, in a biblical sense, literally in the lyrics, not very deep, as I said.
You know what? Frankly, after hearing your description, I'm a little over this song already.
Yeah. Musically, it's killer. It's a rock and some great chorus.
You know what?
And like a big call and response.
Crappy lyrics, call and response, big chorus, good music. You just
The whole
described,
album.
I was gonna say you described this record. Let's run through this a little quickly.
Sure.
Rocket, great song, means nothing. Keeping in mind, this album is largely influenced by the Cold War. We are at the zenith, the climax, the apex of the nuclear scare.
That's true. It's the end of the wall, actually. The Berlin Wall comes down.
We're 2 years away from the wall coming down.
So I will say that Rocket is again indicative of this thing I mentioned last week, where they start name checking famous other artists and their hit songs. So Rocket is a list of other rock songs that matter to them.
For the longest time, I did not realize it was Rocket with an E.
Yes.
And not Rocket as in like rock.
I feel like it meant to be Rock It, and then Herbie Hancock's Rocket came out earlier than this, but I don't know why it's Rocket like a ship and not Rock It. Yeah. I don't know what this song's about except rock music.
Yeah, great song. Moving on into Animal. You want to talk about cringe ass lyrics? This is him being like sensitive and silent and lovely. All he wants is some strange. Specifically,
it's a good song though. I kind of wish it had a better lyrical anything, because like there's some killer there's some really good stuff on here, and then there's like the breakdown before the final couple of choruses where it's like this very sinister White Snake riff thing, and it's just very sad that the lyrics are awful.
Then we go into continuing on the I hate love system. We now go into the very ambiguously titled Love Bites.
Yes. Not to be confused with In the Dead of Night, Love Bites by Judas Priest. No. It's a strange song. This is the Def Leppard history forever and more. The fourth song of every Def Leppard record will be this kind of song.
Oh yeah. Then we move on to more songs about meaningful emotional connection. Pour Some Sugar on Me, which was a hit the size of Brazil.
Take the bottle, shake it up, break the bottle, blow it up.
Break the bubble.
Break the bubble. Why? Why was this allowed? Lyrics are awful. Song is great. In a nutshell, this whole album.
I did not realize they were saying saccharin. Except they say saccharine.
There's a lot of misheard lyrics on here. There's a lot of weird sugar references. They just let's have a whole list of things. And it's not done well.
Let's have a whole list of things that you really know what they are.
And by sugar, he means sex liquid.
Yeah, he means stank. He wants to get some stank
sex liquid on his wang doodle, as you like to say.
Sex juice.
Armageddon It is the actual.
I'm sorry. Thank God. I almost.
Side one ends with Armageddon It, which is my favorite song on the record, actually.
Yeah, great song. Another great song.
Steve Clark, incredible riffs. Not about anything. Doesn't mean anything.
I know, but the lyrics, the lyrics are influenced by the Cold War.
Yeah. Also, how good's the singing on this one? Like the harmonies. Beatles level.
There's no song on this album that sticks out to me vocally, because they're all huge.
Oh, that's the one to me that kind of sticks out vocally. Also, let's talk about how front loaded this record is, because side one is unbelievably picked with top 10 hits, and side two is like 2 good songs, and I don't know why they did these other
2.
Yeah, 2.
I got 1.
I'll tell you 2.
All right, I got one. Gods of War. Oh Jesus, I don't care.
7 minutes long almost. Why this?
Uh, don't shoot shotgun. Now we got Ronald Reagan. We got video game noises. The kid looks up at this and looks at me as if to say,
You made your
"What in
kid
the?"
listen to this whole thing. She's too young for this record,
She
bro.
listened to it yesterday and today. She looked at me as almost as if to say, "Dad, you are abusing me," and it's hard to disagree.
You might have.
Run Riot. Don't.
No, Run Riot and Hysteria are my two top picks on side two. I love
I would
Run
have
Riot.
guessed Love and Affection, but whatever.
Nope.
I don't.
Hysteria
Okay.
title track, very good. Was a hit in Europe, not in America.
Yeah. Then we get to Hysteria, which is an amazing track.
Yeah.
Should have been on the first side
Should
because
have, yeah, should have.
it should not have been in this pile. This should not have been in this septic tank.
Well, kind of save side two a little bit, but
It
like
does not. You can't.
these are all much worse in hindsight. This side
The horse
two
is already dead. You can't
this
save
is
it.
Almost a Quiet Riot side two somehow on a
Almost
on a huge record.
almost.
So
It
we agree that Hysteria is
is.
great, almost 6 minutes long. These are some long songs. I don't know kind of why.
It's a 3-sided record. It's one of the best 3-sided records out there, not made by somebody named Robert Plant.
Yeah, Excitable's bad.
Yeah. And Love and Affection is completely forgettable. So
why did you think I was gonna like that one?
Because it didn't have a title as stupid as Run Riot.
I think Run Riot's a good title. I think Run Riot goes into your thing from a couple of weeks ago. Walls Come Tumbling Down, right? Run Riot is a very common 80s song title for whatever reason. I think it's a punk thing, and I think it was stolen from like the Clash or something.
Yeah, it is what it is.
In retrospect, if like obviously, look, we can't know now what we knew then. It's an awesome record. It's a hit record. It's a good record. It's the second best or best Def Leppard record, depending on who you ask. But there's a whole forgettable, almost whole side to this thing that's like pretty bad.
Does that sound familiar at all?
I mean, it sounds like their whole career, but
correct. So what I said last week or the week before was Def Leppard has yet to sequence a record well.
Yeah, okay.
They're
this is not sequenced well.
They're front loading the quality. They're not hiding. Honestly, this record, if you took the two songs off side two that you dig and all the first side, which is great, you've got a 45-minute record. You have overloaded with filler.
Totally. Yeah. Like they had 3 years to make this record and they spent millions of dollars making this record. Those songs should have been better.
Or not.
I'm not saying they don't sound good. I'm not saying they're not perform well. They're just not good quality songs compared to the bigger hit songs on the record.
They're
barely passable, actually.
We all know that Wild Thing is not as good of a song as Purple Haze. You can like one better, but we know this one's better quality. That's just all there is to it.
That's fair.
In terms of qualities of the record, I have to say, all four of these records, to me, in hindsight, in retrospect, are all about the same. They don't have a single complete record in their run of 4.
And these are their best records.
Yeah. Everything after this is really forgettable garbage.
Yeah, really quick. Adrenalize comes out 4 years after this.
5.
5. It's not that good a record.
It's garbage.
It's one of those things we talked about in a few previous series where like your hit record has a carryover effect that people just blindly buy your next thing before they listen to it and then they regret it. Mm-hmm. A lot of Adrenalize glowy fireball album covers in the Goodwill. You know what I'm saying? To this day. And then honestly, can't even remember another record they made except for Slang because it's not good. They have a live album and a symphonic record coming out and a book coming out all next week. I am interested in none of it. Am I proud of them? Do I like them? Have I seen them live in the last few years? I have. Are they fun? Did they put on a spectacle? They certainly would be the third best or second best band on the stadium tour, ahead of Motley Crue, behind Poison or Joan Jett, honestly, in terms of talent and quality these days. But they put on a huge show. They're great.
And I mean this with what I'm about to say. I mean
Hall of Fame, right there in the Hall of Fame.
I mean this with no disrespect. We're basically talking about a higher selling Poison.
a more commercially viable version of Poison. Motley Crue with more talent,
Yeah.
except on the drums. Sorry, Rick, and your arm. But
yeah. Well, we're talking about a band that had a great run of singles and
tremendous run of singles, huge cultural impact because of MTV.
But a very small run.
Yeah,
of
they
albums.
have like 15 good songs, and then that's it.
Out of 4 records.
If you out of their whole career, actually. If you disagree, come at me in the comments. I think they have 15 or 20 tops excellent songs. That's really stretching it.
I will say this was my choice. I regret it. I apologize.
I don't regret it. It's good to revisit this. I will pick up On Through the Night on vinyl. I don't have any Def Leppard on vinyl. I will get
On Through the Night, and then I'll
Hysteria,
have
like in nostalgia, Hysteria's meant a lot to me. And definitely meant a lot. It was it was everywhere.
Right.
And then you were like, oh, I was a Def Leppard fan from High and Dry and On Through the Night. And people were like, what are those?
Right. What's Rock of Ages? I've never heard that.
Today's Reddit and Discord equivalent of who?
Yeah.
Who? Like, who.
We could have been like, not just name 3 songs, name 3 albums. Name 2 albums.
Name one good album by Def Leppard. You almost can't. This is a good record. This is not a terrible record. Yeah, just that side 2 is super weak.
It's a terrible record as an entire piece. It is. You can't skip a whole side and call it a good record. That's their whole career. So when they hit, it's a home run. They are a 215 batter with 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. That's what they are.
And I was trying to search my Dave Kingman from the 70s and 80s is the only guy that comes to mind. That's like
Jack Clark. These guys are Jack Clark.
Yeah. What's the line from The Town? I haven't seen anybody rob the Red Sox this bad since Jack Clark.
That is all I have for this week.
Yeah, same. I have nothing else. If you like, you can take us home.
All right. Thank everybody for keeping in with us, checking in, having all that good stuff. Thank you for joining us for the Def Leppard series. Please check out Ghost Cult Mag at Ghost Cult Mag at Ghost Cult Keefy for great amounts of news and views and blah, blah, blah. Check with me for just random pictures and goofy gizzle stuff that I put on Twitter that makes me giggle. If you have made it this far, you are amazing. You are awesome. You could be my new online friend. Please get with me. But even though Def Leppard has played in Peoria, this is the Glacially Musical Pouredcast, and even though Def Leppard has played in Peoria, balls. Stop it.